Property taxes are a hot topic with those in the ag community. Just last week, the Nebraska Legislature's Revenue Committee said finding a solution to high property taxes starts with helping farmers and ranchers and rural school districts. Last week, I was joined by University of Nebraska Extension Water and Agricultural Law Specialist Dave Aiken to discuss recent property tax developments, why they're so controversial in the state, and what may be ahead.
Property taxes are the biggest tax that we pay for state and local government in Nebraska, bigger than sales tax and bigger than the income tax as well. In addition, the big ticket issue is our local schools, and it's mostly funded through local property taxes. We're pretty low in terms of state aid. Finally, on the ag side, for over the last 70 years, property tax payments by Nebraska farmers and ranchers have been 146% of the average for the country as a whole, considering net farm income. For Nebraska, the last 3 years, that's been 88% higher. So it's almost double what the rest of the country is paying in terms of property taxes on ag land.
What happened with property in the 2019 legislative session?
Well, we did get a couple of bills passed. There's a property tax relief for flood victims. That is great that one passed. In addition, there's another one that says if the county or school district is going to let revenue go up without changing the rates, they still have to hold a public hearing on that increase. So those are both good changes. But the big issue in terms of whether we're going to do any major property tax relief, that never got beyond the debate stage because there was never enough support to move it.
And why do you think that is?
Well, first thing the bill did was that it was going to change the state aid formula, which meant that more aid was going to go to rural schools, less aid was going to go to urban schools like Lincoln and Omaha, and the urban senators were made very much aware of that and really didn't support the bill from that point on. In addition, they were going to raise, or a lot of the sales tax exemptions were going to go away, so everybody who was going to lose an exemption came and complained about that. Finally, the governor has been clear for the last several years that he's against raising one tax in order to provide tax relief somewhere else. And so raising sales taxes in order to lower property taxes was a non-starter with the governor.
So all that being said, where did things end up?
Well, we didn't get anywhere in terms of property tax relief. They were at least 5 votes short of what they needed to move to the next stage of legislative debate. And so in response, some rural senators voted against reform of the state economic development program, which they had originally supported, but they voted against it so that they could try to tie these two bills together and get them both to pass in the 2020 unicameral.
And what do you think the next step will be?
Well, the Revenue Committee is meeting with the governor, and I think they're trying to meet the governor at least halfway in terms of how he would like to go. I think the property tax relief package is going to be smaller than urban senators were hoping for in the 2019 legislative session. And I think we'll see some restrictions on property tax increases and local spending. But there's a lot of stuff that we still don't know.
Okay, lots of big changes. So I guess the big question is, do you think the governor and the unicameral can come together to accomplish this?
Man, that is the big question, because if they don't, there will be a ballot initiative on the 2020 ballot that would, the so-called 35% solution, which would be a real dramatic way to address this issue.
Go into a little more detail on what that 35% solution is.
Basically, what it would do is that everybody who pays property taxes in Nebraska would get a 35% credit on their state income tax return. So if I'm a homeowner with a $150,000 house, pay $2,400 in property taxes, I would get an $840 refundable credit on my state income tax return. If I owed the state $200 for income taxes, I would, instead of writing the state a check for $200, I'd get $640 back, the $840 credit minus the $200 that I still owe the state. If I didn't owe the state anything, I'd get the whole $840 back. If I was going to get a $200 refund, I'd get a bigger refund. I'd get $1,040 back.
So if you're an ag producer, how would that impact you? What does that look like?
Well, they pay quite a bit more than homeowners in terms of property taxes. So if you're looking at a farm or a ranch that's, say, $2.5 million property value, they would pay about $30,000 in income taxes. 35% would be a $10,500 refund. So if they didn't owe any income taxes, they'd get a check from the state back for $10,500.
So this 35% solution doesn't sound cheap.
No, it would cost about a third of the total state budget, or about $1.5 billion a year.
That's a lot of money. That would definitely impact the state budget.
Yeah, that's a third of the state budget that would just disappear. So the governor and the legislature would have to decide, are we going to do this through cutting state spending? Are we going to raise taxes? Or are we going to do both? And whatever they do, they either have to cut spending by a third, or raise sales and income taxes by a third, or some combination. So if they cut the budget by 20%, they'd have to raise sales and income taxes 13%. It's any way you cut it, it would be a bruising legislative session trying to deal with that budget shortfall.